Okay, I'm starting the recording now. So Jeremiah, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, wait, give me 1 second. Okay, I am ready.
Josephine, give the call 3, 2, 1 action or something.
Jeremiah, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome everyone to the online panel discussion, Youth Filmmakers Against Mental Health Stigma, where we are going to open a conversation regarding mental health, especially among our youths. Today we have a panel consisting of mental health experts as well as filmmakers who have produced award-winning films addressing the topic. My name is Jeremiah, a content creator from social media channel Tropic Monsters TV, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. Hi everybody, hi panel, hi panelists. So to start, I would like to introduce each of our panelists. Okay, so first off, we have filmmaker, the director for So Decide, Ariani Camelia. So Ariani is a freelance assistant director who have always been passionate about filmmaking. Knowing the rise of mental health issues and coming across the Singapore Mental Health Film Festival, Ariani decided that through her passion, she would be able to relay a message and also create awareness about mental health. Being around people close to her that have been going through struggles, she feels deeply with regards to helping her loved ones and others around her. So to overcome or even to just speak up about their issues. Hi, Ariani. Okay, so next up we have a filmmaker as well, director for Yet, Ivy Chin. So Ivy is the founder of Umbrella Filmworks. Ivy's spirit burns with passion in filmmaking and firmly believes that her films need to be infused with soul. Having honed an arsenal of skills, she stepped into the filmmaking scene. Ivy has embarked on multiple projects, even including the production of feature films. Concurrently, Ivy has created short films, online web series, corporate as well as commercial films. Ivy has also produced, directed, and edited several award-winning films that premiered in notable film festivals, such as Yet, June winner of Breakout Film Festival Edinburgh, official selection for Best Film and Screen Singapore Mental Health Film Festival, as well as Return, winner of Voice from Courts by Community Justice Centre, Singapore. Screened at the Singapore Biennial 2016 opening ceremony, and Blast, Best Sound Mixing and Editing by National Youth Film Awards 2016. Ivy graduated from the NTU with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Digital Filmmaking. A very, very long list of awards and credentials. So next up, we have filmmaker, the director for Two Birds Perched on the Branch, where Abu hanged himself, Mr. Justin Tan. So he is the winner of both Best Student Film and Best Overall Film at the 2019 Cine 65 Movie Makers Awards for his film, My Homeland, a photography project by Grandpa Chen. Justin Tan is a passionate filmmaker who graduated from Temasek Polytechnic's Film of Design. Bitten by the filmmaking bug ever since he caught Spider-Man on the silver screen, Justin's drive for storytelling has landed him several accolades over the years, including VITC's Jury Top 10 in 2019 for his Bollywood Masala, Oh Mary, Jan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So inspired by the works of author-director Wes Anderson, Justin believes that thought-provoking entertainment is an essential core in the heart of film. Hi, Justin. All right, so next up in our panel, we have our youth ambassador, Azri. So Azri is a year 3 student from Republic Polytechnic, pursuing a diploma in health management and promotion. He is currently taking part in this social media invasion as part of an in-house internship project, together with the help of lecturers. Hi Azri, how are you? So next up, we have our mental health expert, Prof. Ong. So Dr. Ong is a senior consultant child psychiatrist and chief of the Department of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry in IMH. He obtained his master's in medicine in psychiatry in 1999 and graduate diploma in psychotherapy in 2001 from the National University of Singapore. Since his return from a fellowship in New York in 2005, he has been deeply engaged in outpatient services for children and adolescents with psychological problems and has conducted research work in mood disorders, schizophrenia, and ADHD. In Child Guidance Clinic, he uses art and other creative expressive therapies to help children and young teenagers who suffer from anxiety, depression, and trauma. Well, in his free time, Dr. Ong enjoys appreciating art in all its forms in art galleries, museums, live performances, and pop-up art events. He is a frequent speaker in public forums and media interviews on child mental health issues. His authorship also spans various relevant topics on children and adolescent mental health. Hi, Prof. Ong. Nice to meet you. So next up we have, last but not least, Dr. Jared. So Dr. Jared Ng is a psychiatrist working at the Institute of Mental Health, Singapore. He helps oversee emergency and crisis services in the hospital and is also the program director of a community mental health program in Singapore. Dr. Jared Ng obtained his Master of Public Health from Harvard University. He is extremely interested in the public health approach to mental health issues, including promotion and prevention of mental illnesses and their comorbidities. Sorry, excuse me. Hi, Dr. Jared Ng. Nice to meet you. Okay, so we have met our panelists. Nice to meet you all. So right now, I would just like to get the very talented filmmakers to do a quick introduction or long introduction, whatever you wish to do, of your respective films. So first off, we have So Decide by Ariani Camelia.
All right, thank you so much, Jeremiah. Yeah. So my short film is mostly about the decisions that a person would make to actually, when they are actually at the lowest point of their life. So these decisions that they make would actually affect them as well as the people around them. So I hope you guys can actually relate and understand the message that I wanted to portray in my short film, and hope you guys enjoy. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Ariani, sorry. Okay, next up we have Ivy Chin introducing her film Yet.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Jeremiah. So Yet follows the stories of the main lead, Ling. So she's a fresh graduate who struggles to live with herself. So the story will bring you through Ling's train of thoughts and finally coming terms with herself and accepting that she needs help which she opens up to her family first, we will then see that how difficult a conversation can be to gain support and understanding for a start. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy the film. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ivy. So next up we have Justin Tan, who directed the film Two Birds Perched on the Branch, where Abu hanged himself.
Hi, okay, yeah. So, Two Birds is actually a film about a family who is coping with the loss of a family member through suicide, and I think it's a different look on the topic of suicide, because we often talk about people that suffered, who is suffering, and who contemplate suicide, but we never thought about the family and the aftermath of suicide. So, my film takes a look on a mother-daughter who tries to cope with their father or their husband's suicide in their own way. So the daughter tries to move on while the mom is still stuck in the past that her husband is still there.
Thanks, Justin. All right, so right now I would like to speak to our youth ambassador, Azri. Hi, Azri.
Hello.
So I think in the whole panelists, you are the youngest. So you are the representative for the youth in Singapore. So maybe you could share with us how you felt after watching the films.
Each of the film that I watched, they talk about the situations that people go through in relation to mental health. And although I think that all three films were amazing, they send different important messages and information, which we viewers can take note of. For example, the first film, So Decide, it's about suicide and encouraging people to seek help if they go through like similar situations. I think it's a useful video which viewers can learn from. Then I think the films were very entertaining, yet something which I can relate to emotionally. And the actresses in the films also played out the characters well, which made the audience very immersed into it.
All right, thanks for sharing that with us. So as a student, I'm sure you have many friends, right? In school, outside school. So do you talk about mental health with your peers? Is it like a topic where you guys, sit and discuss openly? Are you at all concerned about mental wellness?
Even though I think that it is not a common topic to talk about with peers, I do talk about it with my friends. I think aside from relationship with family members, the relationship that I share with friends are also the most valuable, as of course there are things that I may not that I may want to talk to friends with confidence, which I may not talk with my family members. For example, I have concerns about academic or work performance, financial worries, or stress from life transitions. I can talk openly with my friends. Like, for example, they can get me to agree on myself by making it clear that it's not acceptable for me to allow mental health issues to control my life. So I think by talking to close friends about it can be important for both of us. Because, for example, if I suddenly behave oddly or just suddenly show unhappy side, not seeming wanting to talk, they are able to understand instead of them just thinking the wrong way. So, of course, it's also important to only talk about mental health issues to close friends which I trust, as they can offer ways such as offering words of support and encouragement. I think that mental health is a topic that can still talk about more though, especially in schools where students can learn more about it. For example, I don't know, you can have just like teachers talk about health topics regarding mental health. So, for example, the platform chat, which is Community Health Assessment Team, is a platform whereby at-risk youths can seek help from to talk about the issues they face. So these are platforms which can be useful for youth in Singapore. Although, yes, I think there are more that can be done to discuss about it more openly.
Yes, definitely. Mental health is a topic that should be discussed more openly, especially among youths. And as friends, we should support each other. We are a very strong pillar of support. So friends out there, support your friends however you can. So to elaborate more about what Azri mentioned, CHAT, CHAT. So CHAT actually stands for Community Health Assessment Team. a community which helps and supports youth people with mental health concerns. So they have been around since 2009, and it has been a national outreach and mental health check program under the Institute of Mental Health. It's so-called the Singapore's AAA battery for youth mental health. Essentially, CHAT is a group of healthcare professionals dedicating to promoting awareness of mental health, access to mental health resources, and to assess by providing a confidential and personalized mental health check for young persons between 16 and 30 years of age. So, Azri, continuing on, maybe you could share with us, what are some of the common problems faced by youth these days, based on your experience?
So speaking from a student perspective, there are many common problems faced among the youth these days. So one of the common one is bullying, especially with the increased usage of social media among youths. Has made bullying more public and prevalent. So in fact, cyberbullying can replace is the most common type of harassment that youth experience. So I feel therefore it's important that youths know what they can do to seek help if they experience this type of harassment. So another most common problem among youths could be academic problems. Some youths feel that the pressure of getting good grades in school could be due to parents' expectations or even peer pressure. So if a student feels that they are falling behind in terms of academic achievements, they feel even stressful, and the stress can impact their academic performance, and students could also face fear of pursuing a dream that is out of line of the societal expectations just to meet their parents' expectations. The stress resulting from all this can also contribute to other health problems such as sleep problems and also them resulting to addictive behavior.
Yes, I agree. Our youth are very involved with social media, and social media can be a place where a lot of cyberbullying can happen. So Raya, speaking about that, so we would like to talk to our our mental health experts, Prof. Ong and Dr. Jared. So maybe Mr. Prof. Ong, after watching the films, it made me really more aware about mental illnesses, especially the causes of mental illnesses. So maybe you could share what are the causes of mental illness?
Hi, Jeremiah. Thank you for having me, and I'm so delighted to be here with you guys to talk about the films themselves and also the impact on viewers like myself. As you can see, first I'd like to congratulate the three filmmakers here for creating such wonderful short films, touching on the very sensitive and often taboo topics about mental illness and disorders, particularly suicide. Now, as you can see, there are three different storylines here, three narratives, but a lot of them could experience very similar or overlapping symptoms. For example, the film from Arena is on depression, suicide. Ivy is about loss of a dear one, grief issues, and about anxiety, in a young person. And of course, Justine's film is about grief and loss. So all these conditions are very much part and parcel of life and what we go through, but the causes are, still very unique to every individual's. Okay, to date, I think the causes of general mental illnesses are still largely unclear, but it's thought to be the interplay of the many factors like genetics, personality characteristics, and coping styles, and also whether the individual had experienced any form of trauma in the earlier part of their life, like during childhood. And this is also influenced by current behaviors like substance use, if the individual is taking illicit drugs or experimenting with that drugs, that could also cause psychiatric symptoms or problems as well. And if the individual has a medical illness or injury that affect the brain, that can also, lead to mental health symptoms. Last but not least, family factors, the environment that a young person grows up in, whether it's validating, nurturing, and warm, that also can contribute to the development of psychopathology as well. So when you put all these jigsaw puzzles together, each contributing to a portion to the development of mental health, mental disorder, and everyone would have a different kind of experience of all these factors. So largely it's still multifactorial as to the causes of mental illness. Thanks.
All right. So yeah, you mentioned that almost everyone have their own challenges when it comes to mental health and mental illnesses. So yeah, the question, I'm curious, does everyone have mental illness?
I think it's a very interesting question. Thanks for asking that. Now, I would say that almost everyone at some point in their life would have some mental health symptoms. All right, yeah. Remember the time when you had a lot of stress due to major exams, or we lost someone that we love, or you have failed in a business venture. So all this can lead to stress, anxiety, even low mood as well. But we typically bounce back, as we often do, and we feel better as time goes by. And these symptoms do not necessarily evolve into an illness, okay? So yes, we do experience mental health symptoms, but not every one of us will develop a mental disorder or mental illness, all right?
All right, thanks Prof. Ong for that. So we would like to address the films as this is about the films that the filmmakers have made as well as the youth. So as seen in the films, as the characters are all youth, maybe Prof. Ong, you could share with us what are the main issues faced by the youth today when it comes to mental health, and how has it changed over the years?
Well, I've been in practice for the last 20 years and certainly feel that a lot of things have changed, not just in terms of the stresses that young people of today experience, but also in the attitudes towards mental health as well as the help-seeking behaviors as well. Right. So I'm glad to say that at least the awareness of mental health has improved over the years, and there's also improvement in help-seeking behaviors. So I think that the changes in mental health problems faced by youth are also largely contributed by the arrival of the internet and also social media as well, which was rightly pointed out earlier on by our youth in our midst. Okay, the youth of now do face a lot more pressure from academics, right? Yeah, and but they also have to sort of like develop a sense of identity and a sense of being conforming and a sense of being popular among the youth as well. And a lot of these needs are also perpetuated by social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and so on and so forth, whereby a youth self-esteem is also is endorsed by the peers and by how many likes that you have in your message or video that you uploaded. So imagine, if you don't get that kind of response, positive response from your peers or from people online, that can be very disappointing for the youth, and they may get anxious and depressed as well. So definitely the landscape has changed over the years because the youth have to perform much more, put in more effort in academics to achieve the excellence in that area. And they also have to face and the pressure of peers through media, online, social media, internet, chat groups, and they may succumb to that. And of course, having computers and handphones certainly add on to the numerous distractions that the youth already have to date. Thanks.
Yes, I think many youths, always look at social media, comparing themselves with, others in the social media world. And yeah, I think that leads to a lot of, like you mentioned, mental health challenges. So as an illness, is mental illness treatable? Is it like a terminal illness? If so, does one need to be on medications, and is it like you have to take the medications forever, or can it be cured?
Well, thanks for the question. Well, there's both good news and bad news. Okay, all right. Good news is mental illness is not terminal. All right, yeah. You don't die from a mental illness. You die through your actions, or other medical complications from mental illness. So there's no cure. The bad news is there's no cure. Mental illness. It's not as if we have a lesion that we can cut away, and or treat with antibiotics if there's bacterial infection. But mental illnesses are highly treatable. So that's a term that we often use. There's no cure for mental illnesses, but it's highly treatable. They are very good and well-established evidence-based practices in the form of medication treatment, as well as psychotherapy in its various forms to help individuals suffering from mental illnesses. So of course, there's always a chance that the illness may recur, and we call that a recurrence. So hence, treatment adherence and compliance is the key towards maintaining good health, as well as early identification, so that the youth can access professional help. Now, with regards to the long-term outcomes, there's always a chance for psychiatric medications to be stopped, but it all depends on what type of illness it is, what's the nature, what do we know about the long-term costs, and and how severe the illness is, and how many relapses that the patient has really experienced as well. So all these will inform whether an individual will need longer term care or perhaps a more favorable short-term term care. So it is a difficult question sometimes, because every individual comes with different attributes and factors.
All right, thanks for that, Prof. Ong. So the next question would lead to is mental illness hereditary?
Yeah, most forms of mental illnesses are hereditary, unfortunately as well. So the risk is higher if a blood-related family member has the illness, and the risk can increase even further when there's more than one family member having that disorder. Okay, I'm a child psychiatrist, so I work predominantly with children and youth as well as young adults. Right. So to cite an example, autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, are both highly heritable. So we always ask about whether there's another sibling in a family with a similar condition, or any cousins, or even the parents themselves, all right, may have a history of that as well. So all these are very pertinent, and it does lend some weight into our formulation of the case, as well as the prognosis of the case as well.
Thanks for that. So, Prof. Ong, you mentioned you work mainly with children as well as youth. So, let's say if youth is looking for help, is IMH the only place to go to when a youth is seeking to address a mental health issue? Is there a difference between going to, let's say, IMH to a GP?
Well, many years ago, IMH was the main center that provides mental health care. But over the last 2 decades, we have new departments of psychiatry and psychological medicine mushroomed across Singapore. And nowadays, all restructured hospitals have a department of psychological medicine or psychiatry. So individuals with mental illnesses can certainly go there for assessment and treatment. However, not all centers are equipped with the expertise to manage younger people, all right, yeah, with mental illness. So the Institute of Mental Health and is still the biggest mental health facility for mental health problems in young people. So I run the child guidance clinic. We have two. One is at the Health Promotion Board building. One is at within IMH itself. So these are our outpatient clinics. In the National University Hospital, as well as KK Hospital, they also have child psychiatric services as well, whereby young people could be seen in. Now, and of course, you have private psychiatrists in the private sector who also deals with young people with mental health problems. With regard to primary health care, like family doctors from the GP clinics or even polyclinics, some of them actually have been received some training in mental health. There are many I know who are GP partners of Institute of Mental Health. They actually have obtained the graduate diploma in mental health. So they are able to actually assess and treat the less complex form of mental health problems in young people like ADHD, mild anxiety, mild mood disturbance. All right. So these doctors are viewed as generalists, so they can see a broad group of, they do have, their knowledge is quite broad, but their expertise in each condition is not so deep compared to that of specialists. But we do work with our general practitioners and family doctors. In some cases, young people who do not really need to see a tertiary clinic like child guidance clinic. So they can go to these family doctors for treatment of their conditions which are deemed mild in their case. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Prof. Ong. Yeah, that's very important and useful information, as I believe many youth out there do want to seek help, however, do not know the various places to turn to. So glad to know that there are many places to seek treatment. All right, so right now we would like to turn our attention to our filmmakers in the panel. So first of all, I would like to say, amazing films you guys have produced. I can see how difficult it is, especially when touching on a very sensitive yet important subject, which is of course mental health in youths. So yeah, I was really touched by the films. So well done to you guys. My first question to you guys would be, what made you want to do a film on mental illness? Maybe you can start with Ariani. Yep.
All right. A film on mental illness. Mostly it was because I've seen a lot of my loved ones as well as people very close to me struggling through mental health issues, and for myself, I didn't know exactly how I was able to help them. So when they come to me for advice and things, of course I'm always there, like I'm there to support, but I didn't know exactly what I should be doing. So I thought about it, and then I felt that I should do what I do best, which is actually to write a script and to create a short film, so that maybe it would actually give them, give my loved ones as well as others courage to speak up and not be so ashamed about their struggles, so that with my short film they would also be able to relate and maybe catch the message that, hey, we are here, like your loved ones are around, there are actually people who are supporting you, and that it's okay to feel the way you are feeling. That's what I was very passionate about making a film about mental illness.
All right, right now, maybe we can have Ivy to share.
Okay, so I joined I started making films about 7, 8 years back. So initially when I started making films, I always thought that making a mental illness film or anything that's linked to psychology is very interesting. Like the visuals and the sound, it will make very good impressions to viewers and have a very good watching experience. But throughout all these years, while I started making even more films relating to psychologies, I feel that I had to make more I have to do more research. So as I do more research, I realized that there's a lot more than just bombastic effects on films. So actually started to appreciate more, and I started to learn more about what mental illness is actually really about. So, and I thought that filmmaking is always a very good medium to reach greater audience. So to write a script, to make a film, I think it's very helpful in a way that hoping that there's some audience out there that can actually relate to the story and eventually encourage them to seek help in earlier stage. So yeah, so that's how I actually started making a lot of films on mental issues.
Thanks. And last, we have Justin. Hi, Justin.
Hello. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So for me, why would I want to do a film on mental health is because I had an experience before. I was working with someone, and then the person just looked me in the eye and then told me that, "Oh, I don't think you're creative enough in this industry." And I think that kind of sparked a conversation and kind of lead into like self-doubt, like, oh, if someone of a higher status had said this to me, then like, do I really fit this line and stuff like that. And then I think from there, I got inspired that it took me quite a while to recover and to know that, okay, actually that's just one person's opinion. What creativity means to me doesn't mean to someone else. So from there, I took from this experience, and then I started forming a character about this busker girl or musician girl who is told that her tribute to her dad is not good enough, and she's not good enough to be in the music industry just because someone didn't like it. And from there, took it off, and I feel like it become an issue that I want to talk about because it's a personal experience. And I think films are deeply a personal experience, and I think that by portraying it out there, I think also it kind of drives me to do this film because I have something to say, and perhaps maybe something to prove against that person that says that I wasn't creative enough. Right. So yeah, that's why I decided to make this film on mental health and touch on this like sort of taboo topic. So like through entertainment, maybe we could shed light on it and make it perhaps less taboo. Yep.
Oh yeah, it's great how you took a personal negative experience and made it into a positive experience for everyone else. And yeah, thanks for sharing, Ariani and Ivy as well. So yeah, clearly you guys have a lot of experience making films, as seen in the three of your films. So is this your first film relating to mental health?
For myself, yes, it is actually my first film about mental health. It's mostly because I'm still quite new in the media industry. I'm still quite a baby in the media industry actually. So when I actually took the step to write, direct, and produce this short film about mental health, it actually took a lot of courage to begin with. Although I knew that I really wanted to put out this message, that I think there's always a first time for everything. So I tried, and actually it went out very well. So I'm proud of myself. Yeah.
Yes, you should be. Yes. Yeah, it's a very good film. Can we have Ivy to share? Maybe is this your first film relating mental health?
Okay, as I shared previously, I did I did make some mental health related films back in school time, but mostly those are experimental films to explore visuals and sound effects. And it's only until recently for this short film Yet, and also my FYP, my final year project in school, it's also a short film on mental issues. So only these two films, actually, I put a lot of myself in it. So I put a lot of my own experience and my feelings and research into the story writing. So I would say that it's only these two films that really tell stories from what I really feel instead of just making bombastic effects. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Justin, could you share as well?
Yeah, so for me, I think this is the first time I'm doing a film on mental health. I think previously, like I've done like other short films. I've done other short films as well, but I think it's not mental health as the main topic, but I think like for my Bollywood film, I think mental health was kind of like at the side kind of thing. Like, you know, what if this girl, she racially abuses her like neighbor, and then she got stuck in the TV and stuff like that. So that the elements of mental health, I think this is the first time that I'm really touching on the topic and tackling straight on in, like, you know, very sensitive and very thoughtful manner. Because I think when we started film school and stuff like that, you know, all of us, like I think Ivy said before, we want to do like films with bombard. Like at first we think, oh, we want to do films very bombastic and stuff like that. And you know, like I think in the process when we are creating this kind of films, right, like for example, it's the first time we can make movies, and then we'll make a movie about a serial killer, and then if we can't give him a motive, right, we say, oh, he's mentally deranged and stuff like that. So I think last time when we approach things like that, right, it's not very sensitive. And I think like this is the first time that, you know, after learning and after researching, is when I could approach this in a sensitive and thoughtful manner on portraying mental illness on film, which is that people are normal, but it is an illness also lah. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that you guys really put a lot of thought into the films. So you guys approached it really well. So yeah, as we know, films are broken up into three steps, right? The pre-production, production, as well as the post-production. So yeah, during the pre-production phase, did you guys face any criticism from your friends or family when you decided to work on a film regarding mental illness?
I don't think there was any criticism in the first place. People from my circle are mostly very supportive of my decision to create this short film about mental health. So I think I just tend to surround myself with supportive kind of people, and I would normally cut off people who are more toxic. Although there was how to say, constructive criticism within, like what is my story about, and people were like telling me, what do you want to show? Do you want to show all the normal things that people stereotype mental health to be? But other than that, I think everybody within my circle was actually very, very supportive with after I shared with them what my message was and how my visual was going to be like.
All right, that's good. You have very supportive friends and family. Could we have Ivy to share as well?
Right, so same as Irani. My friends and families are actually mostly very supportive, and they do agree that there is this importance to help spread awareness and to hit on all these taboo topics. However, my parents did actually have a little more worry, because they worry that I will actually dive in too deep and might affect myself. But other than that, I think it's all on a positive note that people they support me to touch on this topic. Yeah.
All right, it's good. Eventually they give you support, and I'm sure they are very proud of you. Justin, how about you?
Oh yeah. So for me, right, I didn't really meet resistance. I think when I told my friends that we're making this, right, I think they were like quite supportive of it also, because I think it's slowly becoming not a taboo topic. And I think, like as I said before, if films like this, if we approach it through entertainment and stuff like that, it's easier rather than taking the hard approach. And I think slowly, yeah, people's minds will change after seeing the film. Like they'll slowly understand. They might not get the full picture, but they'll get at least a basis of understanding of it. So that was the intention of it. Yep.
All right, thanks, Justin. So right now, let's discuss probably the most important aspect of the film, aside from the film itself, the title of your films. So yes, we all know the title is very important. Could you share with us the inspiration behind the title?
For my short film, it's called So Decide. It's also actually a wordplay with suicide. Uh, yeah, so mostly because my short film is about the decisions that I see my loved ones take when they were going through their low points in their life, and how they decided to actually speak up and to stay strong for the people that care and love them. It touched me a lot because they are really close to me. Like these people, these loved ones, where I really see firsthand them struggle so badly, where they were really at the point of giving up, and how I felt very not to say useless, but I just didn't know what I can do, because generally I'm still quite young, and as a young person, seeing people around me really just break down. I mean, I would normally just break down with them, but yeah. So the title "So Decide" is heavily based on the decisions for my people as well as the wordplay.
A lot of thought went to that title, and yeah, we could see a lot of emotions was put into producing that film. So Ivy, maybe you could share with us the inspiration behind your title.
Okay, for mine, way before the pre-production, even before I write the script, I have this idea of making this film, of having an open-ended ending. So I always like to have my audience to imagine what they want the story to end with, whether is it positive, negative, or suspense kind of thing. So when I started writing it, the idea of what's next is very interesting to me. So I titled the film Yet with a semicolon. Both of this Yet and this semicolon actually give me an idea of something is about to end, but it didn't end. So I think it's very, very symbolic to me. And yeah, I think it leaves a lot of imagination for the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to add on to Ivy, what she said about semicolon. So yeah, Project Semicolon, stylized as Project Semicolon, is an American non-profit organization known for its advocacy of mental health wellness and its focus as an anti-suicide initiative. So founded in 2013, the movement's aim is presenting hope and love to those who are struggling with depression, suicide, addiction, and self-injury. They are known for encouraging people to tattoo the punctuation mark semicolon as a form of solidarity between people dealing with mental illness or the death of someone from suicide. So Project Semicolon explains that a semicolon is used when an author could have chosen to end their sentence, but chose not to. The author is you, and the sentence is your life. So Project Semicolon was founded by Amy Bluer in 2013 as a tribute to her father, who died by suicide in 2003. Bluer lived in Wisconsin after her parents divorced. Bluer chose to live with her father and his second wife at the age of 6. Since then, Bluer endured being physically abused by her stepmother. At the age of 8, she was taken into state custody by a child protective service, and Bluer began self-harming and attempting to kill herself after she had been sexually abused at the age of 10 and raped at 13. At the age of 18, Bluo's father died from suicide, and she was subsequently released from the system. In her early years in college, Bluo was raped twice and suffered a miscarriage. Bluo suffered from alcoholism at the age of 30 and had 5 major suicidal attempts. Yep, so just a bit of backstory from Project Semicolon. So continuing on, could we have Justin? Yeah, we have you to explain the title of your film, please.
Okay, so for the title of my film, right, it was actually inspired to a trip. So I went to Busan International Film Festival like last year. Then I attended this like producing conference where someone was like talking about titles, and then one random title he threw out was just like, "Oh, you can't name your film Two Birds Perched on a Branch," blah blah blah. Then I actually like, I was sitting down there, I took notes. I was like, actually, I can name my film that, and then I also quite like the title because I think it's quite introspective where the image of, you know, where the father hanged himself is weighing two birds down that actually could, you know, fly freely and be free because they have wings, they can go anywhere, do anything, but they're still weighed down by this, you know, mental conscience that, you know, it's like of how the father died and how the father left them abruptly. So I think, yeah, it's quite metaphorical, symbolic, and also I think a bit of self-indulgence when I have a super long title because I actually like that. Yep.
Yeah, personally, I really like each of your titles a lot. You can see a lot have thought has been put into it and a lot of meaning behind the titles. So yeah, so back on your films, I'm just curious, how long did it take for you guys to conceptualize, prepare, and complete the filming? Maybe you can talk us through more on the pre-production process.
Okay, for the pre-production for myself and my team, it was actually very, very quick because before creating this film, I already knew what my message was going to be. So I already knew what I wanted people to see visually in my short film and how they want to, like how I want them to feel when as they watch the short film. But I'm not sure, some people feel differently, but most of the audience that I do talk to, they actually felt what I really wanted to portray. So preparing for the filming was the most difficult because scouting for locations and persuading my friends and close ones to actually be casted in my short film, that actually took the longest because most of them are not available, or you know, they're not paid actors. So mostly it's just out of their voluntarily just do it for me. So going through that and then working around their availabilities was also quite difficult for me. But during like the filming itself, we just took one entire day to finish the entire film.
Oh, just one day.
Just one day.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. You must teach me. All right, yeah. So could we have Ivy to you know, share with us about the your pre-production process?
Okay, from scripting to final delivery is about 3 months. But way before scripting, the idea has always been at the back of my head. So I would say it took some time to write to have the final idea of the story out. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, could we have Justin now? How long compared to, yeah, Ivy and Iriani, how long did you take?
Yeah. So it took me about 3 months to pre-plan, right? So we conceived the idea like early July, August, like that, and I think it just kind of came naturally. It's like a conversation I had with my friend about, we were sharing about our experiences with anxiety and stuff like that, and then I think that's where the story started to bloom and grow. And I think writing the script, I think it felt a bit more personal. Um, Pre-production definitely is also a little bit difficult because we have to get, you know, all our friends to come together and, you know, shoot a short film where everyone has different commitments. But I think we did pretty well. We spread it across 3 weeks, 3 days and 3 weeks, so over 3 weekends. And yeah.
Nice, nice. So yeah, speaking about the pre-production process, may I know how did you guys go about your research? Did you guys get a chance to speak to someone with a related experience, or how did you go about coming up with your scripts and your concept?
For myself, I didn't research about anything at all based on mental health. Mostly, I just took my own experience that I had and how I, as the one who is watching someone go through going through their struggles with mental health, as just somebody who is supporting, how do I feel and how do I want, like how would I react as well if I were to lose one of my loved ones. So I didn't exactly care whether my short film was right, or like whether it is correct in a sense where I was actually portraying the right idea of mental health. It's more like what I have experienced and what I feel as the one who is trying to give support to. So the message, everybody is clearly entitled to how they feel and their own opinions and how they wanted to interpret my short film. But I didn't really just research about it. It's just based on personal experience.
Yes, I think personal experience, I think like Justin mentioned earlier, plays a huge role in coming up with script. So Ivy, maybe you can share with us.
Okay, for Yet, the skeleton of the storyline, the dialogues, is actually solely based on my conversation with my parents and how I behave at home and how my parents talk and how we interact, but in a amplified manner. So the scripting is actually based on myself, but to support all these ideas and to support creating the character that suffers from mental illness, I did talk to a few of my psychology friends. So I did show them the script and ask them for their feedback whether this character is actually believable, if she's suffering from depressions or suffering from cyberbullying kind of thing. So yeah, I did a little, and also I attended some workshop by SMHFF. So this workshop actually also helped to broaden up my knowledge on mental illness. So yeah, so that's basically how I do my research for the film.
All right. So lastly, could we have Justin to share how you go about your research?
So for research, right, I think I also, like Irani, I didn't really read into like articles and stuff like that because I think I wouldn't have that level of understanding where I could go deeper than what is on surface level. But I think what as in the media line, right, what I could relate to, right, is what I can relate to for in the media line is that we speak to people through emotions and through our films. And I think that by sharing my personal experience as well as researching with my friends, like when I talk to them about their experience with mental health and stuff like that, right, through that, right, we can create an emotional experience rather than one that's very clinical and direct. Because I think we are not experts in that, but what we can do is we can make people feel something, and when they feel something, they're more inclined to research about something or know more about something. Yep.
Yeah, definitely all your films have raised awareness about mental health. So I would like to know as well, as a fellow so-called filmmaker, in production, there is bound to be obstacles and various hurdles. So what were your main challenges faced while working on this film?
Challenges faced for me as a director. Mostly I was still starting up as a director. I was still learning a lot of things that a director should be doing, but mostly it was getting the emotions that I had to portray out in the short film, because this short film was very personal to me, and I knew what I wanted to relay, but explaining it to my team as well as my cast was the most difficult part. So like not everybody experience the same things. And for me is to relay them the message without using words, it was most difficult to use words to tell them like, I want you to feel sad, but what kind of sadness? And there are actually different levels of sadness that I want my cast to feel, and for my team to actually understand exactly my vision for this short film. I was like telling them and trying to show references, but it was just, that was my main struggle as a director, because I was still learning at that point of time. And I think how my team and my cast actually managed to really put it out exactly how I wanted it was like, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, looks like it's a talent. You're a very talented director. So could we have Ivy to share your challenges?
I would say the biggest challenge for me was to cast, because during the casting period, it took across about a week. So I have almost 20 over links trying to cast for the role. So, but most of them, I would say about 80% of them, they always they always act in a way that they're trying to dramatize mental illness. But what I'm actually looking for is people who can portray inner struggles. So instead of shouting out, I'm actually looking for someone who can show me more of their struggles kind of thing, which I think is very hard for an actor per se. So yeah, I think casting is really very difficult, and the next challenge would be really acting out a scene after I casted the cast. So even I feel that she did show a lot of inner struggles during the audition, but during the actual filming, it actually took a lot of time to try to bring out those emotions that I really want. So I will always make her stay in a room herself. And prior to a big scenes, I will actually come into the room and talk to her and discuss about the scenes and ask her to imagine things, kind of imagine the scenario I want it to be, and put in some visuals in her head so that she can actually dig some of her personal experience and amplify it out in front of the camera. So I think a lot of these little emotions is very difficult and very challenging for me to bring it out.
Oh, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, definitely all the emotions that you brought out in your film. I felt it. So good job on that. How about Justin? What is did you have any challenges or obstacles?
Challenges I face, I think it's the scheduling of people, definitely, because all of us started to become like working adults, right? So I think it's quite hard to put together a crew for passion projects. But also, I think another challenge would be, I think Ivy also said before, like casts. We have to run through like several casts and like make them understand that portraying mental illness is not just about like your hair is messy and then your makeup is weird and all that stuff, like all that cliches, right? So we have to sit down and understand and talk to the cast and make them understand that what we're portraying is actually kind of like real life like that. So yeah, so I think that's one of the challenges, is because there's a stigma that mentally ill people is have the wild hair and everything like that. So it's one of the taboos we don't break also through film. Yep.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for sharing that. So yeah, is there a segment in your film that you particularly enjoyed filming or has touched you in any special way?
For me, in my film, because most of my teammates or my crew, they were actually my friends from the media line, and we actually work in the same office. So when I came up like this with this idea to do this short film, they were all like, okay, let's do it. And then I got the support from my boss as well to do this short film. So we had a weekend off. So we did it on that weekend. It's one of the Saturdays. And then I just dragged all my friends from my office, and the cast was actually all my friends, of like my main cast friends, as well as his my crew's relatives, my crew's mom. So it's mostly really people that I know as a person, and I have hung out with them, or I actually grew up with them. So doing the fun parts of my short films, where like the cast were all playing with each other, they were hanging out with each other, all of it was actually very genuine. Because they all knew each other. So it was very, really just unscripted. So I just told them, okay, you guys can just hang out, and then I will capture close-ups of y'all, and then you get like, they do things that they usually do in the office per se, where we would normally just like stress, take out a just crush a paper ball and then start throwing at each other. That is all very, very genuine. So for the more emotional scenes for mine, so I had to push them a bit more. So I take out the main cast out of the same scene, out of the same frame, and I told them that what would you guys really feel when you guys you guys were to lose a colleague, a friend, or a brother, or a son. So then I just give them a few minutes to internalize how they are supposed to feel and how the entire scene would change. So they got it out, but for me, the one scene that really touched me was when I had to do the mother scene, which was in the time code of 3 minutes 43 seconds onwards, where you see the mother holding the photo frame of the son, and where she had to cry because she's not an actor. She is actually my childhood friend's mom who I grew up with. And I pushed the mother quite harshly as a director. So I was just at the back of the camera and I was just talking to her, hey, your son's getting married and you know, he is your only son. What would happen to the family if he's no longer around? Things like that. I just questioned her, push her, and it actually made everybody in the room cry. So my camera crew, my team, we had relatives in the house as well. They were all crying. So I felt very bad. I mean, I had to push to get to that level of emotions. But it was very touching for me because I also felt it whenever I question a mother, like, how would you feel if you were to lose a son? So yeah, that was the most touching and special moment for me during the filming of my short film.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. It's very interesting to know what happens behind the scenes. How about you, Ivy? Perhaps you could share.
Okay, so this film is actually shot about a year ago now. So prior to this discussion, I actually rewatch it, the film like alone in a room with all the lights off and turn on the volume to really actually experience it with my fresh eye, because it has been a year now. So but surprisingly to me, up till today, the scene that really still touches me the most is still the closing scene, which is the toilet breakout scene where it takes it's only one take, and it's our very first take when we shot it, and it's about 2.5 minutes. So we see her go into the toilet, she sit down, she think about it, and she break down into tears, and how she finally stop crying, stand up, and look herself into the mirror, as if there's some new thoughts and new idea that came into her, and she left the toilet. So I think up till today, I really feel very strongly for her performance there. And actually this whole film is actually shot in my house. So that toilet is actually my own toilet. So up till now, when I go into the toilet, sometimes I might still see her sitting there crying. So I think the performance really left quite a bit of impression to me. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. That was very good performance by her. So Justin, how about you? Any particular moment you enjoyed filming? Or
Moment that I enjoyed filming, I think quite the opposite me was that I enjoy the montage more because actually montage is very quiet, right? It's very mundane. Then we just see that my main character Nina, she's just like going through the motions with her life, doing chores, cleaning things, packing up stuff. But I think that is kind of like a very accurate representation of mental health because it's one of the quieter moments and more sensitive moments that we see. And then we can just feel this creeping sense of dread coming up to her when finally she has nothing to do, right? Because her mind was so preoccupied, but when it's set free, when there's nothing for her to concentrate on, like tasks and stuff like that, right? She starts to overthink and anxiety starts to creep up on her. So I think the montage was one of my favorite scenes in the film.
All right, thank you. So yeah, I think some of us film enthusiasts are very interested in the technical considerations that you guys undertook to bring out, maybe a particular scene and your characters. So if you would like to break down perhaps like a particular scene or, the overall film and any technical considerations.
Yeah, for mine, I'm not strong under the technical aspect for filmmaking. However, I discussed it with my director of photography, my DOP. So he's actually my childhood friend who I grew up with, and he is a videographer. So I told him the treatment of my short film and how I want it to look like, how I want it to be. And it is actually heavily dependent on the emotions of the cast. So things like tears, things like happiness. So I really wanted to show that within the short film. So with my editor, when I was talking to him about my vision about this short film, he told me or advised me that he could he could actually add in some shaky and unstable effects, as well as where my DOP could just float the camera to show that the instability of the main character, as well as how the thought process will actually be very messy and everything. So with that, my editor also contacted a sound effect guy. So he actually volunteered to put in the sound effects for us in getting the feel of the short film, like advising me that, hey, maybe adding a high pitch ringing, or like making the cries a bit more dramatic here and there, and then the laughter, which is all already pre-recorded as we were filming it, but which part to put in more emphasis. It's mostly my editor as well, who was really guiding me through. So I also, within my short film, there was a music video and soundtrack at the end. So I felt like it would create a more impactful ending for my short film. So I actually called up a friend who is in a band to actually do a cover of Memories by Maroon 5, because it's really how you think that the decisions, and you'll continue like thinking about the memories that you had, the good times. So I felt like this song was really very appropriate for my short films, and how it actually would having the pre-credit roll also would actually hold some suspense, and then how it would lead to the main character's life, which is now better, and how it also affect the people around him who supported him. Now he has a baby and a wife. So technical wise, I'm really not strong in that. I mostly do I focus more on the storytelling, but a lot of help was given to me by my DOP as my editor.
Yeah, I really like the ending of the film, like the cover song, and how the ending played out. Ivy, how about you?
For mine, from the start of, even before filming, I had a discussion with my DOP also. So we sat down and talked about our short list and what kind of shots we want. So what I told him is that I want to really see the emotions more. So most of the shots, we actually decided to take in more close-up shots on expressions and on actions. So those is one aspect first. So another thing is that I really like the idea of having low lights with high contrast. So for most of my emotional scenes, the lights are actually lower and higher contrast. And in color grading, I put it in cool tones. So mostly in blue or in magenta, this kind of colors that can actually make the scene feels a little more emotional in a way. So, and also I really love audio design, audio post design. So I sat down with my audio post designer for 2 days and to review scene by scene of how I want audio post to actually to bring up the inner state of my character. So if you watch the film, you will hear a lot of drone sound, the kind of suspense kind of idea. So I think all these little technical things actually add up to each scene to make it feel very. I would say it feels complete to me to have the visuals and the audio posts coming together. Yeah.
Wow, many technical considerations. Must be a graduate from the Nanyang Technological University. But yeah, very good film. How about Justin? How about you?
Okay, so for me, technically, what we want to do differently is, for the film, right, it's mostly presented in 1:1 aspect ratio, except for the scene where she's singing in forest, right? So why we did that is because we wanted to sell the anxiety just like closing in on someone, and I think that aspect ratio is one thing that if someone doesn't watch films, or someone that doesn't um, or someone that doesn't follow film closely and stuff like that, they wouldn't notice. They would know that the frame looks weird, but they cannot explain it. They can just tell that the black bars are closing in. So it creates this sense of dread and anxiety because people's eyes are not used to the 1:1 aspect ratio, right? They always see everything is white or the two black bars at the top. So by playing with the frame and by playing with audiences' expectations, I create this experience that kind of gives the audience anxiety also, while portraying my film in certain way. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting choice with the aspect ratio. I definitely felt the effects of it. So the next question I would like to ask is actually a very heavy question. So yeah, do you or your cast have personal experience when it comes to mental health issues, illnesses, and did you use that to get your actors into character? Maybe you could share with us what are some of the emotions or thought processes that you as a director go through with your cast to process the role.
For myself, I think that everybody will have an experience with mental health issues, or even just a point in life where they would feel their lowest. So it's not for me. Do I have a personal experience? I am actually, I do actually have anxiety. So, so with that, I think I relate to people with mental health issues and stuff like that. But for my cast, I think mostly it's just for them to understand or to feel what they would feel when they are actually at their lowest. Because I'm not sure whether they do really have mental health illnesses, but I think issues like this is more like everyday people will go through day by day, like what Professor Ong actually mentioned, where everybody would have experienced the loss of somebody, or to feel a bit more sadness or a bit more sense of disappointment with yourself. So every points of this every what am I trying to say? Every point in life, you will actually experience something that you will feel like was difficult for you to actually overcome. So I think I just put my cast into that kind of space where so that they were able to actually go through the emotions within my short film. Yeah.
All right, thanks. How about Ivy? Could you share?
I think personally, I do have down days too. So really down days where I would just want to be left alone. So I think it's also right after I graduate. I started in the workforce. There's a lot of uncertainty and some anger in me, trying to um, trying to do a lot more than I expected during that period of time. So I think I put a lot of that kind of initial idea into the character that I built. So I wouldn't say that is that I have any mental issues. It's just that I always as I write the story, I actually amplify all those down periods and make it even to blown the effect of mental illness. And as for my cast, I'm not too sure if I can talk on behalf of her, but when we are talking through the scenes and stuff, she did mention that she went through a lot of down period as well during the initial state of her career as well. So I think all these feelings and emotions can actually help when we trying to portray the character in the film.
All right, thank you. Justin? What have you gone through any personal experience with mental health? And
Yeah, I think I'm pretty open to share that. I had my fair share of battles with anxiety and with panic attacks and stuff like that. So I think it's good having platforms to like just openly say it, because it used to be taboo to say this kind of stuff. Right? And I wouldn't say other people, but talking to other friends who you know, it's a very stressful industry that we're in, and definitely there will be like mental health issues that pop up, and from there I think these experiences like help shape the film and help kind of like shape our understanding also. Yep.
thank you. Thanks for sharing. So for my final question to the filmmakers, it will be more on the post-production. As we were talking about characters and getting into characters. Did you or your cast experience any difficulties after the filming process in terms of emotions or, you know, dealing with mental health issues?
After so for my cast, it's mostly focused on my main character. I think he struggled a bit, but because all of us were friends, my crews were also his friends. And after the filming of his solo scene on the rooftop, we all just how to say, we just made a good light out of it, because his scene was the final scene of the day and we were already filming around 4 a.m. So him coming out was fine. The most difficult cast, I would say, was the mother. So even after we were done with her more emotional scenes, she was still crying, and then I had my DOP, who was her real son, to come in and hug her and to comfort her. Then all her she also foster kids, so all the foster children went in to hug her as well. So for her, it was a bit more difficult to come out of her emotions, which I felt very bad. So all of us as a crew also went in to hug her after the filming was done. So yeah, it was a very touching moment.
All right, how about Ivy? Any challenges after?
Okay, so my film took 3 days to film. So I put the heavy scenes and emotional scenes on the first 2 days. So throughout all these scenes that we are filming, I will keep asking my cast, my main lead, whether she's feeling okay. Is anything is there anything that I can do after each scene? But most of the time, she just want to be left alone to leave the character when the day ends. So I think that was good. And also on the third, I especially put the third day to be filming all the lighter scenes, all the outdoor scenes, and all the scenes that doesn't require her to be emotionally invested that much. So, and at the end of the filming, we also went for a wrap party kind of thing to try to get everybody back on a happy mood, on a on her to leave this production as themselves instead of the characters and stuff. So and even until few months after the shoot, we also keep in contact with the cast to ask, oh, are they okay, and that kind of thing, and catch up just to ensure that they are mentally healthy. Yeah, I feel I think that should be the way when we shoot this kind of emotional films. Yeah.
All right. Lastly, we have Justin. If you could share with us.
Yeah, so I think from the experience, I got to know my cast, I think, much more personally because so I got to know my cast much more personally because we had to share the experience with them. We had to find get to know them and dig deep into their personal history to kind of know like how far can we push the limits before we can, it's too much. And I think I am very grateful for my actresses that they oh, yep, I'm very grateful for my actresses that they actually could help me. They worked with me and they actually like share quite a bit of their personal history with me. And I think I got to know them very personally, I would say. And I'm grateful for them giving me and trusting me with the information. Yep.
Okay, thanks FIlmmakers for sharing. Yes, it was very interesting to know what happens behind the scenes in the pre-production, production, and post-production process. Thank you all. So right now, I would like to address our mental health experts, Prof. Ong, as well as Dr. Jared. But first, we would like to have some talk to Prof. Ong. So yeah, we have a few youth who have seen the film and have questions or responses rather. So right now, I would like to read out each of the response that we got from the youth, and if we could get Prof. Ong to respond to them. So yeah, so the first response is, I am always very confused about the difference between psychology and psychiatry. Are they the same? And also, what is therapy? Is it a form of treatment? Will it be as good as taking medications? Yeah, so could we get Prof. Ong to answer that?
Right. Thanks, Jeremiah. Okay. I think it's very common for the lay people to be confused between psychology and psychiatry because there's a significant overlap in what we do. So simply put, psychology is the study of human thinking, emotional responses, and behaviors, while psychiatry is a special field or discipline of medicine that assesses for and treats mental illnesses and disorders. So definitely, this is a very clear demarcation of what we do professionally. The overlap comes when we both do a little bit of therapy. So when you talk about therapy, layman's term is talk therapy. Professionally, we call it as psychotherapy, right? And then different brands of psychotherapy. So psychologists and psychiatrists do perform psychotherapy, right? Depends on our training. Like for myself, I did a diploma in psychotherapy and I'm hence certified to do psychotherapy. But otherwise, that's as much as where the similarity ends, right? So we both, understood basic human psychology, what what constitutes abnormal psychology, and what does psychotherapy entails and all that. But one thing the psychologists do better than we as psychiatrists do is that they actually can see the clients more regularly than we can. They also spend significant amount more time in doing so. And in a typical psychotherapy package, the clients will be seen, up to 12, 16, if not more number of sessions, right? Yeah. And the other main difference is, of course, psychologists graduate from arts program, all right, whereas psychiatrists graduate from a medical degree, medical program. So psychiatrists are able to prescribe medications just like your regular family doctors and things like that. Okay, so those are the major differences and similarities between psychologists and psychiatrists.
Thank you. Thanks for explaining that in detail. So the next one would be, yeah, this question or this response is quite long. It's from a youth. I think he's talking about his personal problems. So here it goes. He says, or he or she says, I can't talk about my problems at home, much less talk about my mental health needs. Every time when I try to talk about it, they don't understand. They think I am overreacting or just weak. I can't share it with my friends too because I don't want them to look down on me. So I try to solve my problems on my own, but it's very difficult sometimes. How can I get my parents to understand me better? They are always judging me. Everything I do seems to be wrong. No matter what I do never pleases them. They seem to love my brother more. I feel so alone at home. Sometimes I feel like giving up. Where can I find help? So yeah, Prof. I know that's quite long, but good.
All right, yeah. In fact, these are very common complaints or sharing by our youth as well. I always believe that it takes two hands to clap. So I think both the youth as well as the family members are both equally responsible to make a communication work. All right, and when we talk about communication, it's not just about asking the mundane things like have you done the homework, have you eaten, but we're talking about more quality communications and more effective communications, right? So yeah, many youth often tell me that they're often misunderstood by their loved ones and friends. So that could be because sometimes the family members may not be in a position of readiness to be able to accept or hear you. Bear in mind that these family members or friends have their own previous experiences as well, childhood experiences, growing up experiences. They have their own value system and moral standards and so on and so forth. So sometimes it could be they're not quite ready to hear, or they are already in a very they're not on an impartial ground, so they may be biased, or they may have some stereotype thinking about people with mental health concerns. So that could be one reason why youth can't get to their parents to hear them out or their friends to understand them. But the youth must also try their best to communicate effectively as well. So don't expect parents to be able to, or your friends to read your mind. So if you don't verbalize it, they could be confused too about what your needs are, and they can't attend to you if you're not sure, right? So I always advocate for proper, effective communication. So if you're upset, to give that emotional label, tell the reason why you feel that way and what you hope to see or what you hope the person could do for you. I think that will help clear things up and make both parties on the equal platform to be able to understand where each other is coming from, right? So sometimes there could be a little bit of judgment going on. I think it's a human nature for us to prejudge or make a preliminary judgment about the other person. So I think this is something very crucial in terms of effective communications, that you should put your judgment on the side, and then listen actively, empathetically, and try to understand where the other person is coming from. Try not to interject. Try not to come across as patronizing. Sometimes in our attempt to help, we may come across as rather patronizing, or say something condescending to the person. Or we also tend to minimize or dismiss how the person feels. So basic communication skills is so important. It's almost like everybody has to go through that, because I find that in my clinic, a lot of problems arise because of lack of communication, or lack to strive to understand each other. So if youth can't communicate with parents for whatever reason, I think they should try to talk to someone else. Sometimes I find that a lot of youth feel more comfortable talking to someone else external from the family, because they find it's less embarrassing. Because if you have to say something to your parents that's embarrassing, you have to face them day in, day out. So they rather talk to another individual, like a counselor or school teacher or educator, Yeah, so I think sometimes that helps. Other than school personnel, the youth can also approach maybe their seniors or elders from religious organizations like a church or a temple or things like that. So all these organizations can be helpful too. And of course, there are also agencies in the community like family service centers, other volunteer welfare organizations that actually could talk to these youth as well. There are also several helplines which you can call in. Some are anonymous, so that you don't feel the pressure to reveal your identity. So these are some things that can help teenagers to verbalize and to share, and sometimes what the youth need is a helping hand to help link the parents, their family members to them, break down the barriers of communication so that they could have a proper dialogue. And if need to, the counselor or therapist can be a mediator as well, to mediate a conversation taking place in real time. All right. So, and I could go on and on about this, but I just want to highlight another key point is about the way we think. We always feel ourselves we are always right, and you're already biased already. You're not being objective when you already make decision that, oh, I'm right and you're wrong. So human beings, we tend to succumb to errors in thinking. We call this cognitive errors or cognitive distortions. And then some mechanisms that you probably know is, we tend to jump to conclusions. When we see something, we jump to conclusions, all right, without a critical appraisal of the whole situation. And sometimes we also pay too much attention to what went wrong. What was done wrongly onto me, rather than look at the positive things that may have happened. We call it a selective attention or negative attribution. Sometimes we're just too we're tunnel vision. We just only can see one outcome when we're not able to entertain other perspective as well. So these are some mechanisms, psychological defenses, or call it mechanisms that are obstacles to our objective appraisal of the situation. Okay, so I wish that in the conversation, dialogue between two persons, they are mindful of what is going through their mind, mindful of these mechanisms in action that may distort their vision and cloud their judgment. So with that, then I think with the awareness, at least we can do something about it. Like we may want to take a step back, right? Calm ourselves down first. We are usually very emotionally charged at that point. So take a step back, calm yourself down, and try to adopt a different perspective. like, how I see it if I were in his shoes or in her shoes. Would other people think of it this way? Maybe I could ask more people about it, get their views. If nothing else works, try to seek help and talk to somebody, a trusted adult outside the family or profession, who could perhaps offer a more neutral and objective appraisal of the whole situation and to give the right advice. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I agree. Open communication and dialogue is very important. So yeah, the last response for Prof. Ong. Okay, so here it goes. Can I seek treatment without the knowledge of my parents? I don't want them to worry. I think I can handle it myself. I'm not above the age of 21 years old, by the way. Is it compulsory to let my parents know?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jeremiah. If you're under 21, you're still not legally an adult, and professionals like myself are still responsible to the caregivers, which are the parents. So we certainly do want to engage and work with the parents. But yet, at the same time, we also do not want to deny any assessment or treatment to the young person seeking help alone. So we have to weigh, it's a delicate weighing, of like, what are the advantages and disadvantages. So my work around it is, my approach is this, we generally do want youth to engage their parents because they often need the support from their parents, not just for paying for the medical bills and the fees, but also to have that kind of psychological and support and emotional support from the parents as well, especially when the youth are not feeling well. So if the youth is, for some reason, not able to bring the parents in the first instance, we will do a screen first and see whether we could at least find out what's going on, and do a risk assessment to see whether there are any urgent or immediate considerations that we have to keep in mind. Now, so after that, after the first session, we then would work with the youth to see how we can engage another family member. It could be an older sibling who's of legal age, and then, and of course, working towards engaging both parents as well. There are some reasons why some youth do not want their parents to know, because they want to protect their parents, or they don't trust their parents, or maybe they have been a victim of the parents, maltreatment, for example. So there are a lot of legal implications. So we have to take it on a case-by-case basis. So the general principle is that we prefer to see the youth with their parents, but for some reason they could not at least talk to us. We can offer to see them first, the first time, find out a little bit more of the problems, and then advise them accordingly. And we'll try to work, if the child needs a follow-up in the clinic, we definitely want to work with the youth to engage the parents at some point in time. Remember this, that there is a law, in Singapore that we are not allowed to prescribe medications to young people under the age of 18. All right, so we also have to fulfill our legal obligation as well to the Singapore judicial system. So we hope that the youth will understand this is the dilemma that we often come across, and work together with us in a collaborative manner so that we can achieve the best outcome for these youth and their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Prof. Fong. All right, now actually we have more responses from the audience, but if we could get Dr. Jared to just answer these responses. So the first response that I would like Dr. Jared to respond to is, after watching the films, I am reminded of my grandmother's suicide. She took a stool and climbed over the parapet. Every time I walk past the corridor, I feel like I can still see her there, and I'm constantly reminded of the incident. Is that normal? Do I need help? So Dr. Jared, could we get you?
Okay, thanks, Jeremiah. So I think this must be really difficult to talk about for the audience member. I think it really depends. If you ask whether this is normal, whether you need help, it really depends on when the incident was. If the incident took place like 3 weeks ago, I think it's really normal to be traumatized, to think about the incident, to miss the grandma. And really, missing your grandmother is part of the grief process, and you need to go through it. You need to have this period of time where you yearn, you miss for your grandmother. But certainly the incident where you witness your grandmother climbing over the parapet and jumping, I presume, must have been really traumatizing. And I think it would be really important if you talk to somebody about this, especially if this has affected your functioning. You can't work, you can't concentrate, you can't walk past the corridor without feeling a lot of emotions. Um, if this happen, if this is really too severe, we might even be looking at symptoms that are suggestive of post-traumatic stress disorder, which can be treated. So I think you should speak to someone about it. I think what you went through is not something to be taken lightly. And it'd be good, like if there's a school counselor, if there's a counselor, you can see a GP, you can see a polyclinic doctor, and they feel that this is something more serious and you need to be treated by a psychiatrist, they'll refer you accordingly.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, the next response would be, sometimes I froze and my mind just went blank. I can feel my heart beating very fast. Sometimes I also feel like vomiting. Is that anxiety like what I saw in the film?
Yeah, so I think different people will experience an anxiety attack or a panic attack differently. I think what the audience asked sounds like palpitation, which is feeling your heartbeat, nausea, a sense of losing control. All these could be symptoms of a panic attack. I think the other symptoms are such as giddiness, breathing very fast, chest pain, chest discomfort. I think all these are symptoms. So it's possible. And if this happens really too often, or it happens without a trigger, I think it's good to get this sorted out and see a doctor for this. Yeah.
So okay, so the next one is, some of my friends turn to alcohol to deal with their problems. What can I do when I'm anxious? Sometimes I feel like dashing out of the house and to jump off the building. Do I need to be admitted to the hospital? Because I don't want to stay in a hospital.
Okay. So there's actually many parts to this particular question. I'll try to address them one at a time. You're right. I think people turn to different ways of coping that may be more harmful than helpful. We know why people drink. I think drinking sometimes can numb them. They will lose. They might forget their trouble. They help them to sleep, for example. But I think in the long run, excessive use of alcohol is really going to be more harmful. I think there are other things that the audience member can participate in or can advise the friends to do. There are mindfulness exercises, relaxation exercises, deep breathing exercises to deal with the anxiety. I know of many people who take up a hobby, like such as running or going to the gym as a way to cope with some of their symptoms as well. Also remember that there are actually very good treatment available for anxiety problems. I think both psychological and the use of medication. I think a lot of these ideas, these thoughts about don't want to be admitted to IMH or hospital, don't want to take medication, are some misconception, are some myth. It's not all the time that we admit patients. I think we admit patients to the hospital if there's a risk. Like for example, if this particular audience member say that he or she really wants to jump off a building and feel that he or she can no longer control these impulses, this urge to jump, certainly admission is something we need to talk about to keep the person safe. We won't admit a patient unnecessarily. I think sometimes the media portrays mental hospital not very accurately, and of course we know that the need to sensationalize for the purpose of a show, like Shutter Island. I don't know whether it's too old, maybe it reflects my age, but Shutter Island, it sort of suggests that you are going to get brain surgery if you get admitted to a hospital. I mean, that doesn't happen, not now at least, not in Singapore, not in IMH. So certainly it doesn't mean they'll be admitted to hospital. We will work out a safety plan. We will work out a treatment option for you when you come to the hospital, and then we see what we can do to help you relieve yourself of the anxiety. Yeah.
Okay, so all right, the next one is, my friend told me she cut herself because she needs to feel the pain to feel alive again and to relieve stress. Does she need to see a doctor?
Okay, I think self-cutting is really quite common. We do see this in many of our patients who come to us. We also know that many of them cut and they never show up in our clinic or in our emergency room. I think usually cutting sort of reveals that there is a symptom, that there are some other problems that the person is facing. Like for example, your friend said that she needs to cut herself to feel alive again. So why does your friend feel that? She needs to cut herself to relieve stress. What is the stress? Why are there no other methods that she can use to relieve the stress? And whether we are dealing with depression, whether we are dealing with anxiety that hampers the person's ability to cope. So I think your friend needs to talk to somebody. It doesn't necessarily need to be a psychiatrist. It can be a counselor. It can be a school counselor. It can be a psychologist. It can be a general practitioner, a GP. So as Dr. Ong said just now, they are equipped to help with some basic mental health assessment. And I think if there's a need to refer your friend to see someone more, a specialist, for example, I think the psychologist, the counselor, the GP can always make the referral. I think the most important thing in this is to seek help rather than to suffer in silence. And the audience member who hears all this from the friend shouldn't take all this burden on himself or herself, but to really to be there to encourage the person to see someone professional to talk about what's going on in the person's life. You see, we always need to deal with the underlying issue, whether is it a mental health problem, a family problem, marital issues, or BGL problem. I think there's a need to address what is actually beneath. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. So the next one the next response, yeah, it's quite lengthy. So yeah, here it goes. I have been having suicidal thoughts for the past 2 years since the breakup with my girlfriend. I don't enjoy doing anything anymore. It is making me very tired and I want it to go away, but I don't know what to do. Sometimes I feel like there is no point in living. I have looked online about ways to die and have seen videos that encourages me to do so. I don't know what to do. I'm confused and lost. I have heard voices talking to me before. I am not sure if those are my thoughts or they are really voices. Sometimes I feel like the voices are talking to me and telling me to do things to myself. I feel scared. Am I a severe case? What should I do?
Okay. I mean, certainly looking at what was presented by the audience member, it does sound quite serious. It sounds like the person is suffering from depression, which may have been triggered by the end of the relationship. I think the symptoms that the audience member described, such as low mood, a lack of energy, thoughts of life being meaningless, and in fact, hearing voices, this could indicate a serious depressive symptoms. And I think this person should seek help with a counselor, psychologist first as a first cut, or see a family doctor to let them know about these symptoms, to report it as it is, as what is reported here. I think sometimes it's a difficulty. I think sometimes people have trouble bringing up certain symptoms because they perceive that if I say this, if I say that I hear voices, people are going to think that I'm crazy, I'm tua siao, you know, that's what the dialect say. Or I have got serious illness, it means that maybe I'm admitted to the hospital, I cannot be released anymore. But that's not true. I think having voices, for example, as what the audience members said, does not necessarily mean that you're suffering from schizophrenia or serious mental illness. I think people with serious depression can hear voices as well, telling them to do certain things. But nonetheless, these are really symptoms that requires a lot more exploration and assessment. And I would really, really strongly encourage this person to seek help with a mental health professional. And then we can do the assessment, we can even implement treatment so that it is no longer severe. And depression is something that can be treated quite well, actually. So please see somebody and get the help that will certainly benefit you.
All right, so for the final response from the audience, my mother has depression. Sometimes I see her cry in her room alone and I don't know what to do. Should I leave her alone to cry or should I talk to her? I feel like doing something to make her feel better. What can I do? I feel very confused.
Okay, I think this is really not an easy thing to do, to see your loved one suffer. You play the role of the son or the daughter. I mean, you're not there to be your mother's therapist. You're not there to treat your mother's illness, and you should come from the position that you are there to support your mom. I think you should have a conversation with your mother I think showing her that you care is really a good place to start. You have to bear in mind that your mom may not want to say much to you. The mom may dismiss you and say you don't understand. Your mom may even say, no, 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 nothing is wrong. But always be consistent and don't react. Even if your mother reacts, even if your mother screams at you or shout at you, don't react. Otherwise, that will make things worse. Just be there for your mom. And sometimes being there, just holding her hand, being there, offering her a tissue paper, being there, offering to wash the clothes so that she doesn't have to do it is a good place to start a conversation with your mom and let her know what's troubling her and let her know that you're always going to be there for her. I think this is important to have that close relationship. And let your mom know that your mom can trust you rather than, rather than have a situation where your mom tries to talk to you and because you don't know how to talk to your mom, you dismiss your mom and say that, no, I'm very busy now, I'm very tired, I don't want to talk. Sometimes your mom may have actually made the first move before. So just be there for your mom and just try your best to love her, essentially, to be the son, to be the daughter.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Jared, for answering these responses. So right now, I'd like to turn our attention to, I would like to speak to Azri, our youth ambassador. So yeah, Azri, as our youth ambassador, I would like to just ask, what are some of the ways or strategies that youth prefer when they want to find out more about mental wellness or seek support?
Okay, well, I think when youth want to seek support regarding mental health issues, they prefer to keep it confidential. For example, they would prefer one-to-one help session where they feel more comfortable to share with the person that they are talking to. For example, like just now we mentioned about the community health assessment team, which provide confidential and also personalized mental health check for youth. I've also found out that it's a platform whereby in 2018 there was 1,700 youths which approached them for help. Therefore, based on these figures, I think that it's a platform which youths can go to, which they can approach to seek help. Also, I have a question for Dr. Jared. Like we youth, like we always feel stressed, like being at home or in school, dealing with family problems, relationship problems, friendship issues, and also schoolwork. So what are some of the things that we can do to relieve this stress?
Okay, I think everyone needs to have a different outlet. It's kind of difficult to prescribe what are the things that you can do, but see what you have done in the past that has helped you. I'll give you an example. Maybe when I was much younger, what I would do would be to write. I like writing, so I'll write when I'm stressed. I write about my feelings. I write about the thing that's been troubling me. And actually, recently I came across some of my writings before, and I was really an angsty teenager, man. But that was in the past. But then now, what happens now when I face stress at work? I do talk to somebody about it. I come home, I talk to my wife about it. Or I would go for a run. I'll go for a run, and during the run, I will think about my problems. I'll let the problems come to me, and then I'll let the problems go. It's really mindful. I mean, it's kind of a mindfulness exercise that I incorporate into my running. So these are some of the things that I can do. If you're troubled by relationship problems, by friendship issues, I think the best thing to do is to address it rather than keep everything and repress everything. Because eventually all that negativity, all the frustration, the irritation is really going to go somewhere. And it's just going to make you feel very troubled and depressed. So if you really can't cope, if all these usual coping mechanisms like running, exercising, doing your hobbies no longer help, I strongly suggest that you talk to someone about it. There's no shame in talking to people about your trouble. I always ask my patient this: if your best friend come to you with their trouble, are you going to see your best friend as being weak and useless? Almost everybody told me no, So that's what friends are for. And likewise, you should approach people that truly cares about you to talk about some of these issues that's bothering you.
Okay, I have one more question for you. That how do I know if my friend has a mental health issue which needs professional help? And also, how can I play a part in helping my peers dealing with mental health issues?
Um, it's how I'll answer the question about the mom. Be a friend. You're there not to be the therapist, even though you may be doing psychology. You are not there to be your friend's psychologist. You're there to be a friend. So I think it's important to really know to know how your friend is normally. If your friend is someone who is always very cheerful, someone who is very, very chirpy, then suddenly when there's a change and there's no reason for it, or your friend doesn't want to talk about it, then I think maybe you can just gently prod your friend, nudge your friend to say, hey, I noticed that you've not been talking very much recently. What's troubling you? And have them talk about it. Even if they don't want to talk about it, then you let them know that you're there, you're always going to be there for them, and that you will be there for them when they're ready to talk. I think this is important. I will always say this, if you're not ready to listen to your friend, then don't offer it, because it's going to be very hypocritical and you're just going to make your friend feel worse. Knowing your friends is important. I think you need to know somebody well. Um, a few years ago, I had a friend who we noticed that he started to exit all the common WhatsApp chat group. Yeah, I think this is something which then we all felt very unusual. Why we do something like this? And we reached out and say, hey, what's going on? And it turned out that he was really having a lot of distress in his own personal life and he was depressed. So we encouraged him to seek help. I mean, of course, I wasn't the doctor who saw him, but I managed to link him up with one of my colleagues to see him, and he was on treatment for depression. So you need to notice these things. I'm not saying that everyone who exit WhatsApp group are suffering from depression, but I think these are things you need to notice. And then you need to be upfront and open and reach out to your friend. I think have no, again, sometimes if you think your friend is suffering, don't be paiseh and ask them what's wrong. I think it's important. And your part in helping your friends deal with mental health issues is, again, be a source of support for them. Be someone that they can trust, be someone that they can open up to. I think this is really, really important. Yeah, that's what I have to say about this. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Dr. Jared, and thanks, Asri, as well, for asking those questions from the youth. Very important questions. So yeah, we have come to the closing of our conversation of mental health among the, especially among the youth. But before we close and before we get the final closing words from each of our panelists, I would like to just say a big appreciation to our panelists, our mental health experts, as well as the filmmakers in bringing across the very important subject of mental health, which is a conversation that should be more discussed more often, especially among the youths. So yeah, I'm very glad to have been part of this discussion. Thank you all for the invitation to be a moderator, and maybe we can have the panelists to if you guys have any closing statements, closing words, or if the filmmakers have any questions for our mental health experts, that'll be great. Maybe we can start with perhaps one of the filmmakers, Iriani. Do you have any closing statements or?
I actually do have a quick question for Professor Ong or even Dr. Jared. I have a friend who asks, how do you differentiate what is attention seeking and self-inflicting versus real mental health issues? Yeah, so either Professor Ong or Dr. Jared, you wanna help me out?
Sure. I'll jump right in right now so that I can also quickly have my last message for this program. Yeah, I think it is very tempting to always label someone as attention seeking, especially the behavior of the person arouses some negative feelings within ourselves. So I think it is quite sort of like precarious for us to quickly identifying the person as an attention seeker, because by doing so is also a disservice to them, because then the person will be ignored. His or her behavior will be ignored, and you won't be able to extend the helping hand or direct them to get the right kind of help. Now, as far as I know, for most youth and even young adults who self-harm by either cutting or overdose, most of them did not do it because they want the attention, though a minority of them may want to maybe influence the social situation around them or things like that. But majority of them do not really want to, tell the world that, hey, I'm doing this, right, join me or things like that. So I think we must dispense our own judgment, again, like I said earlier in my session, to not prejudge, attend it to the injury itself, whether they need maybe medical care, and then find out, gently, what was going on and what are the events that led to the self-harm. Of course, you may see a repetitive pattern of self-cutting or things like that. Very often that's because the young person may not know any other ways to self-soothe or to cope with difficult feelings, right? So you cannot just ask them to stop cutting and not teach them how to cope with distressing feelings, right? So you need to do it gradually with them, to work towards the reduction of the self-harming, but also activate past coping styles, teach them some skills in managing distress feelings, reaching out, helpful activities they can partake in. Okay, so that's why it's dangerous to jump to conclusion that the person is seeking attention, because then you might deny them of the attention, the medical attention that they need actually, or professional attention that they need. Again, like what Dr. Jared said, it is not for you to sort of like give a professional opinion, because most of the peers are layperson, or even family members are layperson, but it's to direct them to the right kind of care. Bear in mind that self-harm is also a very high risk for suicide attempts later on. So that's why we're trying to mitigate that. Suicide, non-suicidal self-injury is actually one of the greatest predictor for subsequent suicide. Yeah, so that's why we take it seriously. Thank you. And maybe in my closing statement, I'd like to tell our youth out there that teenage years and adolescence is a period of confusion, and as this is actually part and parcel of life, and you're likely to feel out of a loss of control over your life events. There's certain things, like the decisions that you couldn't make because you're too young. Parents are navigate for you. You're told to study, so you do it, and without really knowing the purpose and the meaning behind it. So sometimes youth may feel a sense of loss of control. The locus of control is not there. And this is then also coupled with the uncertainties about their own future, like what am I doing here? What am I going to do next time? Am I going to get, what course am I going to do in the university? Am I going to polytechnic or junior college? What's going to be in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? So there's also a lot of existential issues as well, like what is going to happen, a lot of uncertainties in the future. And unfortunately, we do not have the crystal ball to gaze into to give that kind of answers, right? So that's why it's very important for youth to understand that this is part and parcel of growing up. And also the adults must also need to reinforce with them that it's okay to feel this way, but it can be very overwhelming sometimes. So, please talk to us about it. We're here for you. We'll help you through this, go through this journey with you. All right. So these are some of the things I noticed that it seems to, be very distressing for the young people. Of course, this is on top the complex interpersonal relationships, the academic pressure, internet media use issues, that the navigation through the cyberspace. This is, so all these are on top of all that, and also the importance of the peer relationship taking precedence, over, sometimes family relationships. So can you imagine, there's just so much things going through, and it's not easy for a teenager to be able to do it, perfectly, or even, with go through this journey without any bumps, things like that. So sometimes normalizing that experience can be helpful to let the teenager know that they are not mentally ill, and this is part and parcel of the normal phase. But we also don't want to dismiss their feelings and just brush them aside as well. So that kind of thoughtfulness and a gentle approach can be particularly helpful and reassuring for this youth. Right. So that's my closing statement for this online panel. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Prof. Hong. Very
Thank you,
insightful.
Papa.
Could we any other questions from the filmmakers or any closing statements you guys would like to make? Perhaps Ivy or Justin?
Okay, hello. Can I be heard?
Justin, yes. Hi, Justin.
Yes, hi. Okay, so I think for me, my closing statement, what I would like to say is that, yeah, I think it's a wonderful conversation and it's a wonderful start that we're talking about mental health and we're talking about like what is perceived to be a taboo topic in our society. And I think that we still have a long way to go, and things like this that we're doing are baby steps. But I think it's necessary baby steps to break the taboo, I would say. And yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Justin. Ivy, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think I will just add on saying thank you for having me on this discussion. I learned a lot from the professionals and also from Arani and Justin. So I'm actually very happy that we have been talking about mental health issue and how films can actually do a part to make films to make people understand a little more on the surface maybe. So it also hopefully can help to encourage them to dive in deeper to think about mental health issue in general. So and to also to know that as long as you are willing, there's always help there around. So yeah, thank you so much for having me here. And if there's any content that the professionals thinks that films can actually bring out, you can always approach us, or we can try to do something together to make a very nice content together kind of thing. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ivy. All right. So Dr. Jared, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think I watch a lot of shows. I think I watch too much shows. I really watch too much TV and Netflix, and I just subscribe to Apple Plus, but it's too much. So, but I really appreciate what you guys have done. I think it's wonderful that we can address something as difficult as suicide, depression, anxiety. Um, I was just sharing with Josephine that when I was growing up, I also had ideas of a show, but I just never had the technical know-how to do it. So like what Ivy said, if there's a chance to collaborate, to do something together, yeah, we would love to, do it. I think that would be important. I think film is really a great medium to introduce difficult topics, to get people talking. And I think mental health issues is something that we need to talk about. Otherwise, many people are just going to suffer in silence. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Okay, last but not least, do we have Asri? Yes, our youth ambassador. Any closing statements? Anything you want to add?
Okay, just want to say thank you to everyone. Then thank you to the filmmakers also, because I enjoyed watching the films. And after they shared their story behind the film and also like what went on behind the films, it was very nice to hear about it. And also thank you to Dr. Jared and Professor Ong for sharing their insights and knowledge, which is there's always something new which I can learn every day, and I learned it today as well.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Asri. Yep, I am glad to have been part of this discussion as well, asking you guys the questions and being a moderator. Appreciate the invitation by the organizers, Aaron, Josephine, and the people behind the scenes that didn't speak. Yeah, so thank you all. Thanks to all our panelists. And yeah, I hope to, be involved with more of these conversations and discussions about mental health. So yeah, remember, if you are a youth and seeking mental health, seeking help regarding mental health, do approach the necessary and the available help out there. Yeah. Like Prof. Ong said, open communication and dialogue is very important. Okay, all right. Thank you guys all for tuning in and watching this. Once again, my name is Jeremiah. Yeah, and see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you all. Thanks, filmmakers.
Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.
Experts.